Welcome, welcome. Really happy that you join on a Friday during the working hours. We are going today through how to build a multi-tenancy internal developer platform with GitOps and vCluster. And this is a real use case from a customer we had last year, and we needed to solve the pain. And this is how we done here. And let me introduce myself first. So my name is Artem Lajko, of course. I'm a platform engineer and ambassador for IITS Consulting, a startup from Germany. I'm a CNCF Kubestronaut and also ambassador for platform engineering and published co-author of the book Implementing GitOps with Kubernetes. And I have just one rule. This is gonna be our roadmap and our rules. It's not a real rule. I am going about 45 minutes through the presentation, giving you all the insights I'm collected over the years, and then we are jumping in the live demos. I will publish everything. Today afternoon, I will publish the slides, I will publish the code, I will publish everything, so you can rebuild yourself. And my idea is going through the slides and then jumping to the live demos and making more interactive. So I'm show you something, explain something, you can jump in, create question. The only one guidance or the only one rule during the presentation, if it's gonna be really nice, if we can collect the questions and then answer them after the presentation. And if someone is really good at collecting and rephrase question and then present it, I will be really happy. If someone go for it, if not, I try it myself. So let's going through the presentation or what our target today. I will introduce you Kubernetes and in the context of internal developer platforms, of course. Then if you're building a platform, you will have the role of platform engineering and managing an IDP and how we done it with GitOps, with Argo CD and vCluster. vCluster, I don't know if you heard about it, but it's a really nice product from Loft Labs and I'm going to show you why we use it. Then we are going also looking at some multi-tenancy strategy where you can save some cost. And I have exchanged with a lot of companies. They try to build an IDP and failed. And I'm also going share the 5 common pitfalls when buy or build the right solution and how to avoid them and why IDP matters and why platform engineering matters. I mean, the live day in London shows we had about 700 registration just in London. So it's a hot topic. And then we are jumping to the live demos and hoping nothing breaks. So first, let's clear some terms so we have a common understanding. If I'm speaking about internal developer platforms, I know nobody can really define it. In my opinion, it's like you have one factory on one place that enable you, all the user of the factory via self-service to use whatever you provide. Depending on the industry, this is the short definition of mine. I don't want to go to the big definition, all the stuff. This is how I see it. Providing self-service to your user. If you achieve this, you build kind of an internal platform or IDP without the fancy UI, you can put it on top. Then also, if I'm speaking with a lot of companies, they say, yeah, but who is going to build it? We have DevOps engineer, we have platform engineer. In my opinion, how I differentiate platform engineers, you have 4 layers in the most companies. You have the infrastructure team, or if you reduce the infrastructure team, you will have an API from a cloud provider. Then you have the platform team built on top. Then you have the developer. And then you need the enabler. Some companies call them DevOps engineers, some framework teams. I think Stripe called it framework teams. Microsoft calls them enablers, some dev experience, whatever. This is how I make a difference. So you have teams that enable the developer at scale. For example, the platform engineer don't have much time. Then we have the software developer. And then what I don't like about IDP is if we are speaking about developers, the most are focusing on software developer. But it's not true because developer are every user of your platform, your security team, your FinOps. I mean, if you think on GCP, Google Cloud Platform, it's not just built for developer. You can create your landing zone, you can create your policies and all the stuff. This is what I'm thinking if I build a IDP. I'm thinking of all user or possible user of the developer. Also, if I'm speaking about catalog, it's not Helm charts because a lot of people coming to me and say, hey, I have built a catalog. Here's our Helm chart or a project factory based on Terraform. A catalog, it's a common collection for me, for example, of Terraform modules, of Helm chart, everything you need to provide your platform. So it's not just built on Helm charts. Maybe you have also operator inside. This is like you will order, if you order something in a catalog, a fully built car, and you can choose the wheels and everything. So just from one place. And then, of course, we will talking about GitOps. It's a pull-based approach, and the difference is for you're not familiar with the CI/CD push-based approach, because a lot of people also reaching out to me and say, "What do you mean by pull-based?" In the past, it was something like you commit, pipelines running, doing all the continuous integration stuff, and then you have something like kubectl apply on your target cluster. This is what I mean by push-based in a pipeline. If you're using GitOps, we are using a pull-based approach, so you don't need to push to the cluster. The Argo instance, for example, or Flux, you have also another tools, going and pull the state of the repository. This is what I mean. Push-based versus pull-based. And of course, if we are speaking about operator, I mean, an operator has different controller inside that manage it, but it's not the same as orchestrator, because orchestrator, it's going to be the Kubernetes, provides you all the ecosystem, all the rules you need, and all the stuff. Just to share some terms, because it's confusing a lot of people if you are using terms like DevOps engineer or developer. So if I started, I mean, my journey began, I built, I don't know, 21 platforms, and then I'm saw, for example, that a lot of IDP is increasing. And I was asking myself, what is an IDP? I mean, I built already platforms. What is the difference? I'm taking a look at the CNCF landscape, and I think I'm already using, based on the customer, a lot of the tools. So how it's different from the IDP? I was really overwhelmed at this point. I say, yeah, I built a platform, but what is the charm of the IDP? The self-service, not the self-service. I look at the CNCF landscape, and then I was also searching for on platform engineering at the moment, and saw they build a easier way to understand it with this control planes. I say, okay, get it. So I don't have this, I don't know, 200 tools. And I have some planes, and I have also some portal in. I can see the IDE, and I was taking a look at it. But then I get the overview. I doing some research about a lot of days, and then I reach a point. It was something like, first I needed ring, and then I need to take a look, and then I'm still confusing. And what I have done at this moment, I have already collecting a lot of information and a lot of exchange, and I written an article. Maybe you read it, maybe you don't read it, because I was really confused, and I don't know if IDP was just a real thing. Like, I don't know, at the moment is MCP and AI area, the new hype, or agent to agent communication. And I asked the community. I provided everything I collected at the moment, all my requirements, all my knowledge, and just drop it. It's resonated very well, not just only on the reads, as you can see, but I think about 20 or 25 IDP provider reach out to me. A lot of customer reach out to me, and I have a lot of conversation, and I collected all the requirements from the different stakeholder, not just the developer, and try to understand them. So I put them in different areas. I was not alone. I have support from some program manager. They are in the area about, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. And we collected together from different customer. And to crystallize it, or to understand what the most people saying is, not depending on developer or security teams, they say we want a self-service approach. If you can provide a self-service approach, this is what we understand about an IDP. Then, of course, you have the people using Kubernetes. They say we don't want just use one Kubernetes cluster. We want on demand have a Kubernetes cluster deployed or manage multiple of them if we need it for different projects. Then they said also some things like, we want a standard catalog. For example, you deploy a Kubernetes cluster, it's plain. So they wanted to choose some tools, for example, like Cert Manager or external DNS or whatever you need to run your application on English controller. And they say, we want a set of a standard catalog. I say, okay, I get it, what you mean by a standard catalog. And then they, of course, said, if we have a portal or something like this, we want to have documentation, everything on one place. We want integrated our pipelines, because we are not startups. We have legacy, we have shadow IT, and we need to integrate everything in this IDP. I say, okay, get it. Of course, you need some monitoring, alerting part, and then developer, the software developer or software engineer reach out and they say, yeah, and we want also have a software catalog. I say, what do you mean by that? They say, yeah, you have a standard catalog. And then if we have, for example, different apartments, they're using our tool, we want to provide it as a Helm chart, for example, so the different teams can deploy it, and we want to integrate it so they can use it about the self-service and deploy it on with our custom configuration for the different departments. They say, okay, I get it. You want to integrate your third-party tools or your custom software into the catalog. They say, yes. I say, okay, get it. Then, of course, OIDC, you need some login mechanisms. So if you're running with Microsoft Entra ID, you want just to integrate it to all your workflow. Multi-tenancy. Then I speak with a lot of security and compliance officers. They told me, of course, it should be by default all compliance rules and security should be enforced. It should be API driven because we don't click, we consume APIs. Should we have a nice UI? Allow you to create your own templates, for example, so they can use it. And the FinOps also reach out to me and say, we want to create, for example, if a new environment, it's going to be spin up, we want to define a budget and an alert. I say, okay, I get your requirements, but I'm an engineer. I try to put it in another layer and I created this burger. And I say, from my point of engineering, because I'm not providing infrastructure, let me try to cover it. I say the down or the bottom layer, it's going to be something where I consume APIs, for example, from a cloud provider like we're using for this example, Stackit, to getting some managed services like I manage Kubernetes. I said, I get it. This is how I consume it. So the upper part, like a portal, it's not an IDP. It sounds like, but a portal, it's if you using Getport or if you're aware of Getport, it's provide you not just a fancy UI, it's provide you everything you need to integrate it, all the plugins, all the mechanism, and so you can use it. I say, okay, get it. So I can put a lot of the parts in a fancy UI, but they are still empty. So someone in the middle layer needs to integrate it. And this is the biggest challenge because now you have the upper layer, it's empty, and then you have down the API you can consume. And then as a platform engineering team, or of course, who's gonna do it? It's gonna be the platform engineering team. You need to take your stack of the customer or your internal stack and try to integrate it between this both layer. For example, if I click on a manage or if I say I want t-shirt size, I don't know, medium, I click on it, it should be provides for me everything. A Kubernetes cluster, a managed database, everything I need, but you need to integrate it for your company. And it's based on your industry, it's based on your cloud provider. Sometimes you can use tools like Terraform and Crossplane. Sometimes you can just use Terraform because you don't have a Crossplane provider and you can upjet it. I'm not going deep dive in this. And yeah, you have different states of automatization. I say, okay, get it. Again, who's gonna build it? They say platform engineering team. I say, okay, define platform engineering team. What is a platform engineering doing today? And I find two definitions that I really like, or I created with some colleagues, and we say, okay, get it. Let's think about platform engineering like this. It's about abstracting or compose individual services, building an overlay and making them self-service community by the end user. So the end user own it. Reminder, if you're thinking of GCP, if you're going, for example, for a managed Kubernetes cluster, you click on it, everything is pre-configured, but you own it. If you make mistakes and you can't upgrade it, you own it. And the second definition, what's not about it, it's not about abstracting or compose individual services, what the most teams are doing, and building an overlay and using them internally to provide an infrastructure. So if it's your approach, in my opinion, you are not a platform engineering team, you are managed infrastructure. So you have some shared responsibility, but you just provide a managed infrastructure. And I'm going to show you why it's meta. And I'm also working as a managed infrastructure team for a lot of years, and for some customers still. It's depending on the customer. You can just drop out IDP or a platform. So it means, I think a lot of you will be familiar with that. A new project come in. So the developer are going request or a ticket or email by the platform team, for example, said we need a new stage or we need a new project. And the platform engineering team are gonna create templates based on, I don't know, Terraform, Python, some blueprints, some Helm charts, and provide it. For example, deploy a managed Kubernetes service, manage databases, deploy Ingress controller, maybe a Vault for secrets management, and then enable the developer to use it. But the difference is the infra team owns the platform. So they built it for themselves. they don't aware of requests. And if the developer need, for example, a new Terraform model, something like this, they need to write it their own. They can provide the infrastructure. You have some shared responsibility. And I don't know how familiar you are with this setup, but I'm working about, I don't know, 3 years in this approach. And then I say, okay, but if it means what is the difference to the platform engineering team and why they earn much more money than the normal teams? And I take a look on this one. For example, if you are looking now at a platform engineering team, it's building the same templates, everything you already are aware of it, but it's different. Now you have a developer team. It's going to your portal or UI or whatever you call it. Maybe you don't have an UI, you have just an API. And over on self-service, they're gonna consume it. For example, they clicking on t-shirt size medium, they're getting the Kubernetes platform, everything they needed, but they own it. For example, if you have provide a new version of your template, t-shirt size medium, I don't know, V2 or something like this, they need to upgrade it. So it's very different because now you're building the same stuff, but with a product mindset and also need to integrate it. And this is very difficult because the most engineers I'm working with, they don't have the developer background. They are going from, I don't know, system engineer, cloud ops engineer, cloud DevOps engineer, and then relabel to platform engineering because most of the people science last year are now platform engineers by doing the same. And it's very difficult also for me. I have a software developer background, but it's a different approach if the customer coming to you and say, we need this feature request, this release, this doesn't work. Just think about day 2 operation, how you handle it, who is going to be responsible for which part. It's not so easy. And I mean, if you are looking at the salaries, you can see platform engineer teams earning a lot more than DevOps engineering teams. And if you understand, and in my opinion, if you are doing something like this, then you are a real platform engineering team that provide a platform for self-service, and then go for the 6-figure. If not, you're just relabeled, in my opinion. And I'm happy that you're getting promoted by doing the stuff you already done. And to build the self-service, you need, for example, you need to create an automatization grade. And a lot of teams coming to me that they call platform teams, and they say, okay, I was saying, show me what you have built. What is your self approach? And they show me a blueprint, for example. They say we define some blueprint. You can just fork it, search and replace them all things, and you're gonna be done. I say, okay, it's for me not a real platform, so it's a way to handle the stuff. But if you want to extend it or covering some day 2 operations, or if you need some tools like to deploy operators, I say for me it's not a real platform. But for a lot of teams, especially in Germany or Europe, they say this is our platform. I mean, you have a blueprint. I say, okay, for you maybe, for me not. And then also another teams reach out to me and say, we have already also a platform. We have built a project factory. I don't know if you're aware it. I think Google introduced it. So we have a lot of Terraform modules and you can use it. I say it's a really nice grade of automatization, but also in my opinion, it's not an IDP or a platform, a self-service. Of course, you can consume the Terraform modules, but what's happening if you want to extend it or if you want to build a new one? They told me, yeah, the developer need to write in. So I say the developer starting not only software developer, starting to write their own Terraform modules. They say, yes, it's okay. Sounds not like a self-service approach, but I'm no judge. I'm just sharing the information. In my opinion, it's also not a platform. It's a really nice automatization grade. And I think also you will be familiar with setups like this. Other teams reach out to me and say, we combine Terraform. With Terraform, we provision the infrastructure, then we deploy Kubernetes, and then we deploy Kubernetes. We are using, for example, Argo CD from our Helm charts and deploy third-party tools in a pipeline. This is our self-service platform. I say this is really nice automatization level. But I said, for me, it's also not still a self-service approach. Similar to Terraform, the developer, if they need something or you cover day 2 operations, they need to write their own Helm charts to version it. And then as a developer, you are still not doing coding or focus on your FinOps or security part because you're going manage infrastructure part of it. So in my opinion, I also rejected this as a self-service platform. And to understand the degree of automatization, it's not based on my opinion, it's based on a lot of people I speak with, and we have defined some common understanding. For example, if you have a human user and you are using Terraform modules and Helm charts, for example, to provision the infrastructure and to deploy everything on top, you need it for your Kubernetes cluster. It's a low automatization degree. But then if you are, for example, reduce the user and you bootstrap pipeline so you can scale with the pipeline, it's going to be a medium for the most industry, also a high, but doing the same, not just the user, you replace it to provision your cluster. So it's very scalable. You have the logs, you can see what everything, and it's not just running on my computer. And if you have a high automatization degree, this is the toughest part. It's in the most environments, it's an operator orchestrator driven. For example, if you're taking Crossplane, and if you have a management cluster and you can define everything with the application source code or another definition on the market to abstract everything for the user. So they just need to define one resource, for example, one custom resource in Kubernetes, and they get a managed Kubernetes cluster, database, everything they need. You provide it already, for example, with a pipeline, but managed by the operator. Also the life cycle, not something changed if the pipeline is running, the operator does the heavy lifting for you. And this is a high automatization degree, very difficult to reach for some customers, because if you are running on a hyperscaler, OS hyperscaler, you have all for example, if we are still sticking to Crossplane, you have all the tools already, all the provider implemented for you, and you can just use them. If you are going to a European hyperscaler and you want to use Crossplane, you need to upchat your Terraform modules, or you need to build your own provider in the most cases. And so you need people at your company that are skilled enough to understand how the API workings on the other sides. How do you need to write a Terraform provider if you need one? How do you upchat? What can broke? So it's not easy. It sounds easy, but the automatization degree. And now I want to show you for one automatization reference architecture we are building for a customer. So you're getting it's not the highest one, but it's really high. Just to it's very difficult if I just show you some diagrams. Here, if a reference architecture, you can see, for example, we are using Argo CD as a platform orchestrator, as a glue, sticking to all the parts. You have the developer control plane using the IDE. We don't have Backstage or Port or something like this, because we're just using Homer. Homer is a tool that allows you to expose a lot of your application as link collection. And for one of the customers, it was a real value created by this. He said, I don't want all the documentation, all the Backstage part. I just want to know if I deploy a new cluster, all services, all ingresses running on it, they should be displayed in my Homer dashboard, of course, with OAuth2 proxy, with all the single sign-on stuff. But I want to see which services, and I want to have backlinks to jump to it. And I don't want to look into Argo CD. You can also achieve it with Argo CD. They say it because developers are not just software developer, also product owner and security. So they wanted to see which application running on one cluster or on a management cluster. And this is how we build for our customers. So just for references, you can also create your own reference architecture. If you just download the slides, not this one, these are not slides to this architecture, but to a similar one. And it helps a lot also to communicate with different layer from the top management to the engineers to achieve some common understanding. I can highly recommend it, not just because I'm ambassador for platform engineering, but I'm already used it before I become ambassador for platform engineering. So let's jump to the next slide. I think it's going to be, if you still deciding and you say, okay, get it, now it was a lot, but we still wanted to establish a platform engineering team and we want to build a platform by our own or buy one, so which cases we should have in mind to avoid it. And I just collected the 5 most cases I get from the exchange with 100 experts or much more at the moment, and I just collect them. Maybe I'm biased, or maybe I speak with the wrong people, but I wanted to share it. If you say, okay, I'm going to build it by my own, you should to try to avoid these 5 common pitfalls. And if we are jumping, for example, to ignoring the education gap, with this part, this sounds really, really easy to achieve. But to be honest, if you are going in a meeting and you're asking the people about share terminology, for example, about shared terms, what is platform engineering for you? What is a managed service? What is cloud native? Trust me, you will get from maybe 3 or 4 people 3 or 4 different definitions. And this is what I mean by that. Try not to ignore the education gap, try to close it. You don't need to be an expert and IDP and all the fancy stuff happening shared on your company. Just create a common understanding. This is why I'm starting every slide with some terms. So we have a common understanding for this presentation. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's not, but you are aware of what I'm speaking now. And like I say, IDP is not just for developers, and you need to also find the right abstraction layer, but it depends on the education. If you know what you are building, so you know how much you can abstract and how much abstraction is healthy for your company. If you don't hit, you just put on one layer on top, one layer on top, one layer on top, and in some cases it's gonna break. In the most cases, it's gonna break. It's just a matter of times. So the second part we was finding out is to building on a stable, unstable core. If you're, for example, focusing on everything, but not on your workflows and see the pain, and you're just putting an abstraction layer over abstraction layer over abstraction layer, you create a complexity system nobody's aware to handle. And in the most cases, or how a good friend of mine like to say, complexity comes not from technology, it's come from requirements and abstraction layers. So if you build on an unstable core already, you will get problems. For example, low automatization maturity level, or some customer also come to us this year and last year we reviewing, I don't know, 60 architecture every year, and they say we are a critical infrastructure provider, and we are choosing one American US hyperscaler, and now we have some regulation, we can't use it anymore. And they say we build everything on top of it, and now some I am not aware of it, but some NIS2 BSI C5 type 2 are kicking in, and you need to confirm everything. So not just only your automatization level matter, it's matter which cloud provider do you choose for your industry. And we migrated over the last 2 years a lot of customer array because of this regulation. You know, in Europe, especially in Germany, we love to over-regulate everything. And so you need to choose the right provider for you. I mean, we are happy because we are getting a lot of contracts and a lot of requests. And the next common pitfall is what I think Backstage is the most ununderstanding framework outside there. Must hyped, but also a lot of people, for example, if I speak with them, they say, we just use Backstage because it's bring everything you need. I say, okay, tell me more. They say, after this, they tasted it, they say Backstage is just like an archive. If you don't speaking about the Helm community chart, you can just deploy it. You're getting archive, then you unarchive it, and then you get a library and a framework. I say, yeah, if you're going to the Backstage site, it's saying it's a framework to building your platform. They say, but we think it's everybody use it, or a lot of companies use it. We just can't jump on it. I say, no. If you have, for example, bad abstraction layer and a low automatization level, and you just put Backstage on top, you get nothing from that. So just use Backstage doesn't work at the most cases. I really like Backstages. If you understand it right, the scaffolding part and how you can build the plugins. And if you like React or have a developer who love to code, so you can really nice combine it. And a lot of companies shows that you can use it, but I have also get in touch with a lot of companies that say we failed to integrate Backstage. One of the company or one of the IDP on the market is Kubernetes. They've already integrated it. You can deploy and see how they built it. I really like their approach with Cargo and another tools. So jumping to the next one, It takes me a lot of time to understand day two responsibilities. For example, the most people say, yeah, it's easy. I say, okay, I give you a simple example. Let's say a platform engineering team provides you a template to bootstrap your stack, whatever your stack is. And then, for example, the developer use it, and then you have 4 teams, and you provide a new version of the template. 3 teams use it and it works. The fourth developer team coming to you and say it doesn't work. You have making some mistakes, and the platform teams say no. We have 3 teams running in a production, so it works. And then the developers say, but for us it doesn't work. And then if you are looking at it, for example, to get an understanding what I mean by that, if you using pod disruption bus on Kubernetes and misconfiguring replica 1, minor variable 1, and now you're getting a new upgrade template and it's failed because you misconfigure it, or I mean, it's on purpose of Kubernetes how you have to do it. So it's working how it should work. So it's breaking things. You run and you're getting some timeout after, 1 or 2 hours and it doesn't upgrade your cluster. So that's what I mean. Day two operations. Not easy to cover it until things breaks. And yeah, you can of course say the platform engineering need to cover everything, need to have some health check and some running jobs to see if everything works, but you don't want to remove just PDBs because of your critical workload. It's not gonna help you to kill the critical workload just for an upgrade. And I mean, if you're again thinking on GCP, if you misconfiguration a service and you're running an upgrade, the GCP team will maybe help you or pointing to your misconfiguration. But if the upgrade fails, you own it. Again, product mindset, what's going on. You need to know what's going on in your environment. So let's take into the last one. Also, the most companies failing to measure value. The most companies create some DORA matrix, KPIs, and all the stuff, and don't ask the developers. They don't understand the pain, and they don't understand what the developers ask. They are just going to the software developers, software engineers, software craftsmen, whatever they call it, and you say, yeah, but you have cloud engineers, you have FinOps, you have product owner, and all the other one using also your platform, and they say, really, and how we can figure out. And what I'm doing is I'm going to the developer. This is also this presentation and the demos based on, and ask them, for example, what is your pain point? Doing some shadowing, looking how they work to try to really understand the pain points before, I mean, we are engineers and we love to over engineer everything and to say, I built a solution for you. And maybe it's a great solution, but if the pain points are on other sides, so it doesn't help you to provide a nice solution. So also because of that, a lot of IDP doesn't works or don't provide a value because you have another problems. So just ask your developers. It's very easy. Trust me. We have done it multiple times. And I mean, I speak now a lot about IDPs, and a lot of customers says, maybe we can just skip it. Why we should take a look on IDPs? And let me tell you from the numbers, not from my opinion, and why I think IDP matters. For example, I mean, Kubernetes is now, we have celebrated this year 11 years of Kubernetes, and Gartner is the solution from SAP. Gartner provided, I think, a report from last year where they said by 2027, 90% of the G2 companies adopting not Kubernetes, adopting container management tools, some containerization, whatever it's called. In 2023, the adoption was below 20%. So, and then if you are looking to the Google report from this year, they say, okay, the most companies are 55% already use platform engineering, whatever it means. You relabeled it, you can say, yes, I'm using platform engineering, and plan 90% to expand. And if you're building a platform, IDP have some connection to platform engineering. And because of that, I think it's meta. And like I say, 11 years now, and the most companies just adopted or will be adopted containerization, not Kubernetes. I'm really happy for these companies because I have this year I was on 2 conferences, the people ask me, what is a managed service? What is containerization means? What is space you go if you go in cloud native means? So I said, okay, get it. So I'm, like I say, I'm really happy for the companies, but you need also to zoom out a little bit. And I'm not speaking today about AI. We also build a lot of AI solutions to help it. I keep it just out of these slides. I just wanted to show you what's happening in the last year from my point of view. The companies adopted it. Congrats again. Really, I'm happy. But you have also some automatization progression. We are going, I don't know, away from Chef, Puppet, and also configuration as code tools to also CI/CD push approaches. We are going away, I mean, from configuration as code to package solution to operator-driven workflows, and we're also going away from CI/CD push-based approaches to pull-based approaches. And a lot of things change. And if you just adopted the containerization, you maybe miss some parts of this automatization. And on the other parts, what's happening in the market, a lot of provider of IDPs have building because they try to solve some problems, building some IDPs like Portal. It's not an IDP, it's a portal, like Humanitic. Maybe you're aware of it. Gratix, Backstage as a framework, Kubrix as an opinionated IDP. And then they realize, like getting also a lot of requests last year, they say we can sell an IDP to our customer. I say, I know, because the customer, again, education part, don't understand what they have to buy. So if you are really good at cold selling, so maybe you can sell it to the customer, but by not providing a real value, just because the customer, I don't know, just say yes, or let's do an MVP, and about the MVP, nothing happened. So this is what the market happening in Europe. Maybe in the USA it's a little bit different, or in other parts, but this is what I see in Europe, especially in Germany, what's happening at this part. And so you can't just build or buy an IDP because you need to close your education. You need to increase your automatization. At the end of the day, if you buy a finished solution, you need to integrate everything, all your shadow IT legacy stuff to part of the platform, however you call it. So IDP matters, but you need to remember you need to close your education gaps again, in my opinion. And then also a lot of people reaching out and say, when I should use IDP. I mean, IDP matters. If it matters, we say, okay, should we jumping on the IDP? And I'm not the right person to tell you this. I can just only share my experience. And for example, we have customer where we have 3 platform engineers and 20 developers, and we have a time to market from request to a fully managed, I mean, not just Kubernetes, all the databases, everything you need. And we call it, for example, Repo as a service with our Argo instance pointing to a repository. The developer can just start by pushing or creating the manifest. It's take about 30 or 45 minutes time to market. And also the exchange time between the developers. You have different developer teams, you have different projects. With the platform engineering teams, it's about around about 2 days a month. So you don't have a high cognitive workload. You can put an IDP as a next step, but why? Maybe you have another challenge in your company. You don't need to put a fancy. If it works for you and you can scale and you don't have a cognitive workload. So I would be say, just stick it to it, explore the world, the outside, but try to focusing on your other problems. And then we have companies also, for example, 5 platform engineers, 50 developers, and then they have a time to market sometime between 2 and 4 hours. And now the part I think the most interesting is the platform engineering team have an exchange time, if you're looking at the schedule from them with the different teams, about 7 and 10 days. So if you speak with some platform engineers, they say we are really tired because you can't work, you don't get in your deep dive times because you have a lot of exchange, and you can see the cognitive workload increasing. And so yeah, it's not so easy for them to scale. At this point, I would say maybe you try to enable a self-service approach to giving away, because if your project's increasing and you're getting more developers, you just can scale with the platform engineers, but it's not really scale. You will reach some break-even point and then it doesn't scale anymore, and you will pay the bill later. And we have also some customers here, for example, 10 platform engineers combined with infrastructure engineers, about 400 or 500 developers, and they have a time to market, regulated area, for example, banking area. between 1 and 2 weeks. So, and the exchange time also between the platform engineering team and the developers to explain why it takes so long, why they needed so much improvement. It's about 20 days and increasing. So at this point, you can say, please go for a self-service solution, try to build everything coming new on a new approach, try to keep away because you can't just refactor your whole organization and your whole shadow IT and your whole legacy infrastructure. But you can say something like, I'm going now with every new projects come in, I try to enable it with a self-service approach. Then maybe you have something between with a GitOps approach where you can making some managed infrastructure, providing in, and then you have some legacy stuff running Windows VMs. Nobody want to touch, but they are there. They are part of your business, and you need to find a way how to migrate it in the future. So just sharing my experience. I'm not giving you a recommendation at this point. So now just a short recap, and then we will jump to the demo in a few minutes. Platform engineering abstract services for easy consumption. Ideally about true self-service. You should focus on workflows. Don't add extra complexity. With automation maturity, if you have a lot of ClickOps, PowerShell, and all the stuff, try to avoid it and try to go into infrastructure as code and then jump to the next. I mean, Kelsey said, if I remember right, manage the basic, then go the next step. Don't try to put a layer on top and try to skip a lot of layer. It's you're gonna pay the bill later. It's not what Kelsey say, it's what I say, but he say something like, I think last year, you need to manage the basics and then you going extend to the next step or whatever the next step is for you. Also close the education gap and measure the platform impact by just asking your developer directly, see if they use it. They're gonna surprise you. A great metric is, for example, for me, is if the developer come to you and they show you, it's happening last year multiple times, they show me, we have built this templating with YTT and Carvel and all the stuff. I say, I don't understand nothing, but I'm really happy that you integrated, you built it. And it's a nice metric to see that somebody using your platform, and you can, and then you're also getting some requests, how I can do this, how I can do this, how I handle day 2 operation on this part. And you say, oh, a lot of requests, but they are great meetings. You need to be open-minded, and you need also to have the time to accept it and to understand it. Like I say, just as and AI won't save you yet. So a lot of people also coming to me and say, can we just keep the IDP part and train agents with MCP, agent to agents part, transfer your knowledge to the agent, building specific one, and then we making some chat ops. For example, I want to deploy my workload. I need finished, and then the agent's going to create everything for you. I say, yeah, I want to talk about it, but it's in some cases it works, in some cases not. But it won't save you now. You need exploring. I know a lot of companies already using tools like QBI and provided their own agent trained based on it, and it works very well. But the market, I mean, if you're looking back, it's not there yet. They just adopted, or they try to adopt it, Kubernetes in the most of the areas. So yeah, I would help you maybe to understand your platform, or to using some things like, now I'm speaking about it, sorry about that, generating some policies based on a policy setup, generating schema validation, help you by observability. You have a lot of parts that it's going to be already help by building your platform to integrate it, but it's not going to replace your IDP or internal platform, because you missed all, or you created so much gaps that you can't just jump from over all the gaps to AI. It won't save you. Now I speak too much. Just some Outlook and Q&A session. We are now jumping to the demo. After that, I'm showing you just a short overview about the demo, and then we can maybe, if you have some questions, discuss them, and then I'm showing the solution, how we build it, and also showing you the setup, just some information for you. I will share the slides. We will also giving another webinar end of August, fully GitOps and crossplane driven, if it works well. And also you can meet me at the container days if you have some question or want to discuss in person, or I try also to make it happen to the KubeCon NA in Atlanta. We have already submitted some talks, finger crossed that we're going accepted. And just give me a second. It's a reminder for myself to breathe and to take a sip of water. So now we are coming to the demo, and to understand the demo, why we have built it, there are just few requirements. Our client have tickets, and for example, you have they needed an environment, a new Kubernetes cluster, and they need to wait, I think, until 2 weeks. And they said some developer want experience. We don't want the full blowing dedicated cluster experience. We just want to provide ephemeral stages in a fast way with the tools we already have. You are not allowed to use all the fancy stuff. You need to using our stack and try to create value with this. I say, okay, get it. I love the challenge. Let's do it. And we built it on premise and provided a few stages. And I'm going to show you how we did it and why we are using vCluster for that. You have also another solution on the market like Chaos Motron, also Gardener and Kamaji. I really like Kamaji, for example. And yeah, this is to getting you why vCluster and SKE and what we are gonna. This was a requirement for the developer also here, because I tell you, ask the developers, they just wanted a GitOps-driven environment to deploy the services, to learn Kubernetes, all the stuff, but not waiting 2 weeks. Easy. We just ask them. They say pain point is for, especially for new developer, if they try to onboard them or try to provide environments, they need to wait a lot, and also it costs you too much to getting a dedicated cluster. We just was listening to the developer and solve it, and they are really happy. I'm not working for the customer anymore, but maybe it helps you. This was a stake. They have some bash scripting, Terraform, some Helm, some YAML stuff. We remove all, not the bash, but the PowerShell and the ClickOps, and increase it to Terraform, to Helm and YAML, because they've already used the tools. We are not aware to use crossplane. They have Python 8 operators for Argo CD and all the stuff, but not the open operators. And this is how we have done it. Very easy. We created just one config file. The developer just need to modify 4 or 5 lines. And then we created pull request-based approaches or merge for event-driven. And what's happening behind it, it's running a GitHub action with some schema validation, testing, templating, creating user airbag rules, because vCluster, it's going to be deployed on your host cluster in a namespace, and we created some airbag rules so they can just access the namespace and the vCluster inside it. The Terraform creates the node pools. If you get some isolated and dedicated, we are also, I'm showing everything. We are going through the demos. Hopefully that works, because I just run it once, and also some overlays to configure some. For example, if you want to deploy Argo into the vCluster, you need also to increase your catalog or to allow to customize it for a custom ingress. I also show you, don't worry about it. And in this demo, we just, I'm gonna remove the GitHub action part, because I want to show you what's happening behind the scenes. We are going through all the steps, so you can rebuild by your own, or just copy it and say, ChatGPT, can you put these steps, Artem, going in the demo, just in, I don't know, GitHub action or whatever pipeline solution you're using. So, but first, you can unmute yourself. We can discuss a little bit, and then I'm going to jump into the demo and showing you things. Do we have some questions?
Hi. I'm not sure whether you can hear me. Hey. Hi. So I have a question regarding I haven't blurred my background, so let me quickly do that. I have a question regarding the ownership of the platform. You said that you shouldn't really care. I mean, that the user should own the versions of whatever you're building. So it should be their decision to upgrade. But my experience, and actually one of the reasons why I want to build a platform, is that the users don't really care about the upgrades. They just copied an example 2 years ago. The example is there, and they do not upgrade unless prodded. So someone comes to them, hey, you need an upgrade. And like sometimes you need upgrades for certain reasons. Either the API changes or some product is discontinued. So
I get the question.
yeah.
let me rephrase it. You're saying something like if you provide it just for the developers, they will never taking upgrades because they don't care about it. Totally agree. And in my opinion, it's not to provide just the upgrades. You have to patch the critical parts. For example, like GCP, because of that, I love to using GCP. GCP say if we have some critical parts with our managed service of the database, we gonna page them, and you can't avoid it because we page them. So it's gonna don't break. You have to provide this mechanism also based on what you're building, not to hope that the developer will making it by their own. No. What I mean is, for example, if you say we have now new features, if you want to use it, so you should use, I don't know, t-shirt size 2. But the critical one you need to handle. In another way, I don't figure out how, because this is a great question, by the way. This is very difficult to manage the not just only the day two operation, but also the critical when I can upgrade, when I can not upgrade. So really thank you for that. I hope the other people also get the question. I hopefully also I can answer it. I don't have a solution to your question. I try also to building something, but it's rely on the services, on the API, everything I'm using for the different customer on the bottom. So if they force me, for example, if I'm using Stackit, they have some parts you can enable for critical or for minor pages for your Kubernetes version. It's updated, it's automatically for you by not breaking everything. So if I provide a template which allows it by the default and the developer don't need to care of it, so it's going to be done in the behind the scenes. So depending a lot on what you using as a provider, and very difficult to explain, to be honest, or to giving you a right answer. I can't, but I can just share how
Okay,
I
but
now.
I'm happy just with the validation that it's the difficult one of the difficult parts to actually where to put the boundary or the balance of ownership, right? Whether I mean the users probably want some or need some ownership, so some of the decisions should be there, but there's also part that is taken away from them because this is the cognitive work, the overhead that they want to be taken away from them. So okay, I understand that this is like ad hoc, not ad hoc, but there's no universal rule, and it's not an easy part.
Yeah, I tried to figure it out at the Platform Engineering live day in London, but the answers I get was like my answer. Nobody can explain it, and it's like we are now relabel ourselves, and now we try to understand what platform engineering means, how we handle question like you have asked. So the people are now in our explore phase. They already renamed it they self as platform engineer last year, but now they try to understand what it means. And in my opinion, I don't hope it, but I have similar feeling with DevOps engineering. Nobody can explain DevOps engineering until today. It's culture, it's not culture. I'm doing DevOps engineer, I'm doing everything. And I think if it's the drive still keeping, we are reaching the similar with platform engineering, and then we rename it again.
That's not really optimistic, but yeah, I have the same impression.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the numbers on a KubeCon, and I tried to not to judge, but looking at the numbers, and last year started on the KubeCon, it was in Paris. You can see in Europe, the most platform engineering relabel them as a platform engineers. And then you're looking on the profiles that didn't change the company. You ask them, what making you now different? How do you handle it? As they say, yeah, now we read some great books. Platform is a product. We need to trade it like this. What means that for you? And you say, okay, get it. Thank you very much for the conversation. And then I experienced similar in the KubeCon NA last year in Utah, Salt Lake City. And now I have also a similar experience. The relabeling is easy, but the understanding, also the culture shift in the companies is really a tough one. For example, to establish GitOps in a company, it takes me for one customer 2 years to understand the whole value of GitOps. So yeah, and I try to share my information. I'm really happy if engineers reach out to me to discuss topics like this so we can really find maybe a common solution, because I'm really biased and I have a just small scope because I'm just have 24 hour a day and I working maybe 12, but the other one I try to spending to save some energy.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, hope we talk to you then next platform. We missed each other in London, so yeah, next time.
Yeah, we can talk, or maybe container dates, or maybe I don't know, one of the KubeCons. But another question, or if you have some question, if not, I can jump into the demo, showing you everything. It's going to be interactive, so you can ask every time. I'm going through, go with the flow, no real presentation. And I'm going how we built it, how the self-service work. It's not a fancy UI, it's not a fancy IDP, but it solves the value. And maybe you're getting inspired and see what I mean, creating value, understand the pain, and by using just easy solutions.
I did have one question, but you might have answered it already. And somebody's mentioned it in the chat as well, but the culture shift. But you've built a lot of internal developed platforms in your time. What non-technical challenges did you often see or experience with, I guess, implementation and maintaining these platforms?
Non-technical challenges. Yeah. I don't know if I built a lot of IDPs. I just built some platforms, however you call it first. And
Yeah.
then the most challenge was, for example, the management is going to some cons. They're coming with a lot of new ideas and dropping down to the teams. And the teams, non-technical, say a new requirement. Every year something change. As I say, I don't know, we have technical debt. It's higher as we don't know how to build container. We don't know how to manage everything in our organization. We are not aware of it. Every team builds their own solution. So the no technical part is in the most cases the education one, that the people say, we don't know what it means. We don't know the state. We don't know what we are doing at the moment. We also don't know what's going to be the next steps. They try to figure it out. They read some great books, but they stuck in some ways, and they reach out because of that. The platform engineering course running very well, because a lot of people now start to understanding what building, what it's mean to build. If you non-technical one, if you try to place a new product, what it's mean for my team, I'm aware of it. I have the real manpower. I want to invest in education. I have the time, or first I just need to maybe stay back and don't accept new project and reduce the technical debt. In the most cases is a misunderstanding in the project I'm working between the higher management and the engineers. The higher management try to keep the business alive, and the engineers say they don't understand because we have another head edges, and you have some conflicts, a lot of conflicts with this layer. And in the most cases, I'm like a translator between two layers. I said, yeah, the higher engineers, the higher management don't need to understand what are you doing under the hood, but they need to keep the business alive. And so they need to be transparent with you to show that it takes time. But other way, you need to explain in a way they understand that you can't manage it, because I don't know, you don't have the manpower, you don't have the right, the real education part. It is really tough to say to yourself or to reflect. I'm doing not a lot, but sometimes I'm also realize I'm stuck. My education is now limited, and I need to put more time in education to going the next step. But to looking in the mirror and to be aware of it, and also in your team to expose yourself for the team you are working with, it's not very easy. In the most cases, it's like I said, non-technical. It's between the higher management, the misunderstanding based on a lot of variables, and also the part of culture, understanding that you need what a culture means, how you build it, especially if you're working around the world. I was helping out a colleague in a project with teams around the world, and culture, if you have teams sitting in Asia, in USA, and another one, and you have a mixed team, it's very difficult. We don't spoke about technical. We just spoke the most time, this means for them, he don't understand it, he's really quiet. It's also a challenge. For me, it's the toughest part is culture.
Yeah, I totally follow you. So the technical parts are the fun, easy part. It's the non-technical stuff, which is usually hard, like the culture. But yeah, no, I'm almost glad that you validated that that's similar things that I've seen as well. So, but no, thank you. That's really detailed presentation and answer. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, if you have questions, just drop or write me on LinkedIn, or if we see each other, grab a beer together. So yeah, I'm really easy person and really easy to grab. So if it's gonna be okay, I'm going jumping to the demo. and we are going through and seeing how we have solved it. It's a little bit abstracted. I need to remove some parts that using a cloud provider, European, because if people ask me, can you use StackIt? I say, of course, why not? I mean, I'm working with StackIt since the beginning of the year. I'm familiar with the most services of StackIt, so yeah, I built it, but you need to do some integration. But I'm gonna explain you what it means. It's okay for everyone that I'm continue with the demos, so we can going through the time. I think we have 29 minutes left, to giving you an architecture overview to understand what we have built or how it works. The easy way is we have a host cluster, and in this host cluster we have a running Argo CD instance, and we have a catalog based on, I don't know, we have external sequence operator, cert manager, everything you need to run your platform. And then we are using application sets. Application sets allows you with clusters generators based on the labels to deploy the tools to the right cluster. So we connect Argo to itself, lets them manage itself, and also deploy all the stuff. We connecting because it's the state of the art, industry standards. We connected the external secrets operator, if you're not aware of how you manage secrets with StackIt Vault. It doesn't depend on StackIt Vault. You can use it with another one. And then we also create a app of apps pattern. So we have initial pointer looking to this folder. We will be used later for vCluster or to create it. So you're understanding what. And we have created 2 node pools for this demo. For example, if you're looking here, we have our pool infra, and where we have running our dedicated stack, and then we create a shared pool if the developer don't need an isolated pool, for example, and they say it's gonna be okay if we share some pool with another workload because it was not made for a critical and isolated and high regulated part. It's just for learning non-critical stuff. Yeah, this is the architecture overview, how we build it, and the next step it's gonna be, of course, now we are jumping in the role of the developer. And we say, okay, now I want, for example, having a new cluster, vCluster as a service, just a new Kubernetes cluster. I want to avoid the ticket ops. I want a funeral stage. What I have to do? Very easy. You have, for example, just to create few lines. As you can see here, you just fulfill 4 or 5 lines in a config YAML. Then we put it in a templating engine, a Docker container, so I can provide it on every environment. At the moment, we are doing it with a binary with more logic, but I can share it with you now. So I rebuild everything or parts of it so you can use it by your own. I provide you all the code, everything, the Docker container, also documentation. You will have 2 readmes, one for the workshop, one about the other 2 tools and approaches and how we use it. But it's not meta for our demo. I'm just saying, because I get a lot of messages after webinars like this, and they say, we want the code, we want the code. I say, you get it. Don't worry. I share everything. And then what we are doing here now is, for example, we are using, again, application sets, and we have integrated vCluster to our catalog. So we can also deploy vCluster based what we are doing in another cluster and another one. And we also create app of apps, because if you need, if you're just using application sets for vCluster, you need to create multiple or to increase the labels. So if Argo CD itself, because it's running on the host cluster, deploying wearing vCluster enabled, it just deployed once. So because of that, we're creating an app of apps pattern, just trying to explain you all the application and app of apps and application parts. And then what happening behind the scenes is Argo CD. We are going templating the app of apps applications that using vCluster from the Helm chart, overlay it with custom values, and deploy it in our first demo to the node pool, to the shared one, and the developer can just access the vCluster. So let's go. I think let's just seeing what's happening. I'm a developer. My team is, I don't know, let's call it VF Project X. I disabled Argo. I disabled isolated node pools. So the next step gonna be, I'm starting just a Docker container. Don't be aware of it. And the Docker container is doing some part, creating you, for example, just templating, using these values and templating your parts you needed. You can see it's going green. So what we have done here now, we create an application. We have a pointer already set on this folder. So Argo is all the time watching the app of apps pattern. So we created now a vCluster, template it for the teams, also map it to the, we have airbag enabled, and we map it for the organization LR demos for the teams, GitOps, and it's gonna create a rollback. So you can, if you log in against your Kubernetes cluster, you can access the namespace and connecting to the vCluster. Very easy, straightforward. You can take a look later. So we also create an ingress because we want to expose it. And the next thing we just add it. Demo 1, I call it. So we push it and then we say Argo CD, for example. This is going to be the initial pointer here, app of apps. And we say, please deploy us the part. Maybe I'm making a mistake. I hopefully not. No. I just tasted the demo 1. I built it today in the night. So please have mercy because I was traveling back yesterday evening from London and I have to build it because I want to provide you everything. I love to share it with the community. So I try to provide you everything and I spend the whole night because you are giving me your time. I try to give you something back in return. So you can see it's the app of apps pattern start working and what's happening behind the scene. It's going to create your vCluster, a namespace, some rollbacks, role bindings parts. So very easy. Our developer just have put few lines code and getting a vCluster. Okay, let's take some minutes, for example. It's gonna be more. Wow, trust me. So now we have a running cluster. What we are doing next is, for example, as a developer, I don't know if you're familiar with a vCluster because of that. For someone, maybe I'm bored you out, but we just connecting. We're using this command and we say vCluster connect. It's the name of the vCluster. In the namespace vCluster to the server, because we're using Ingress, we are going over an Ingress, TLS termination. Every part are covered and every service you need is also pre-configured. You can just use it in this Helm charts catalog. So it's very easy. So let's create the comment. And we say it, for example, now we are going, let me clear it up. Let me clear it up. And we're also seeing now, for example, if we are using the kube config and everything works well and I don't make a mistake, we can see we have now a connection. As a developer, we will connect to the cluster and then we will using this command and then we can grab the kube config, like, and then we can connect to the vCluster. So you can see the developer has now the easy way with few lines of code. They just need to configure 1 or 2, giving the project's name and giving the airbag group. If you are running on premise, how we built it at the first time, we have already LDAP integrated. So every groups are you are exposed already. You just need to map it. If you're running it, for example, with like Stackit, you need to integrate DEX. I will also write a blog about it how you can do it, but in time of matters, I don't have the time to show you all the DEX integration part. But you need to have, if you're running on a managed Kubernetes cluster, you can also just give access to specific groups. If you're running, for example, on Azure, and you can map it. This is what I want to say. The cluster need to be aware of the groups, so you can map it. Question until that? Because now we are finished with the first demo part, and we getting as a developer and cluster and running Kubernetes cluster and ephemeral stage on a shared node pool. So I don't want to lie. Hopefully I don't make a mistakes. And so we can see it should be running on a shared node pool. First demo. So if you just want a ephemeral stage. If you have some question, just drop it in. If not, I'm going to the next part of the demo. Maybe more exciting for you who already is familiar with vCluster and how you can build it. So the developer pain was we wanted having a cluster so we can exploit our own and we don't want to wait 2 weeks until 2 weeks to getting over GitOps. And you can see now you can put the config YAML whatever you like. It's just a config YAML for different developer teams. They can just create a list, extend it, and then how you collect it, it's depending on you. And it's very easy to providing it. So we have in 5 minutes, we have a ephemeral stage and reduce 2 weeks to 5 minutes. Now, let's say in the next demo, we want say, for example, maybe we wanted to say, okay, now we want the same experience because on the dedicated clusters, they're getting their own Argo instance. Now they maybe say, please, we want the same experience on the virtual cluster. So it's not like we don't need to be aware of it's running on a dedicated or if it's running on a shared one. You need, of course, to keep some things in mind, because if you're already using notebooks, you can, for example, not install a new metric server if already managed Kubernetes solution provided. So vCluster has some limitations, but also give you a lot of opportunities. But I'm also not aware of the new features, to be honest. Once they have dropped, they dropped a lot. I have the feeling every week, and I'm not working for Loft Labs, by the way. I just really like the product because I'm getting a lot of requests. Can you help? Can you this? Can you forward it to your team? I say, which team? So yeah, let's jump into the next demo. The next demo will be, we are using the same config file. Let's say the developer team says, we want now to enable Argo. We want to using a GitOps approach. How we gonna achieve this? And it's very easy. I mean, you can see similar setup, and we wanted to connect because we are using best practices of the market. We wanted, after we have fetched now the vCluster kube config, we wanted to connect it over our external secrets. Just me put a new version of it. This is how Stackit is gonna build. Create not a secret. The only thing I try to do is first I just putting the kube config now to the vault, because I want at this point, if you're looking at it, I want to create external secrets to fetch the config and having a label on this external secrets. So Argo CD just not only establish a connection to the external or to the vault or to the cluster, to the vCluster, but also starting to deploy the parts they needed, because it's labeled from the same application set with some overlays for Argo CD. We are using the same Helm charts with different overlays for a new vCluster, and you can scale as hell. I mean, I write a book about it, so you can scale as hell with GitOps. I really love GitOps. So the next step it's gonna be, but let's see how it looks hands-on. We are going to the same config YAML because we are still the same team, and we are saying enabled. We have also some schema validation. If I'm making a mistake, we are gonna say, for example, we're using the same comment. It's also, you can do a lot more with this Python template, but now you can, for example, see it's now created here. It's saying external secrets should be enabled, and it's also creating for you, if you are looking to the vCluster part, an overlay for the Argo instance. We don't configure the DEX, we're just using the default admin. You should do it, but I mean, I need, I don't know, maybe 10 hours to explain you everything if I want to share a lot of knowledge about just GitOps and best practice, how you do it. But just saying, the best practice is to disable the default admin user from Argo CD and create your own one, or using SSO and configure DEX. But I think if I show you this part, I will lose a lot of you if you are not doing it yourself already. So let's see. Now we have we say create external secrets and create a part. We pushed in our way, how we do it, we created it, for example, automatically. So it's gonna notify the developer and say, you are finished, your cluster is finished, you can exit this with this user, or you can do like this. And we also push the secret automatically over a job to the Vault about the Vault API. But now I wanted to show you no magic, what's happening behind the scenes, so you can rebuild as easy as possible. So let's just commit the other parts. Demo 2, we call it. And hopefully, I don't have the demo, so sorry. After that, you will see it and the commits. But I think it should work out. If not, maybe I should take a look on my open book. So, for example, cleared, and we are going see maybe it should be create, for example, a new external secret, but you can see it's create a new external secrets, and it's pointing out to the secret store. We have already the connection established, and then you can see we have a new secrets ongoing here. And this secret was the labels Argo CD enabled. And based on the label, we are using application sets with the cluster generator. We are now deploying Argo CD into the vCluster. So let some magic happen. You can see here, vCluster, what's going on, Argo CD, it's gonna create it. And you can see we deploy everything on the shared node pool because the developers say it's okay for us. We don't want it, isolated node pools. It's gonna be worked out, and you can see Argo CD is gonna be deployed. And if we wait some seconds, I don't know if it's external DNS is fast enough, but let's take a look. We have access to the Argo CD with a valid certificate. The next steps the developer will need is, for example, to connect to the vCluster, like we have done here, for example, K9S, kubeconfig. If you're not aware with K9S, I'm using it all the time and I'm not mentioned, sorry for that. You should take a look at K9S. It's a lifesaver and I really love it because you can create your own plugin and it's very easy to do it and to show it. For example, now we are connecting to the vCluster and we can see Argo CD is spinning up. And if we want it as a developer, for example, we can say secret. Let's take the secret, or you can forward it to the developer so they don't need to connect to the cluster if you do it right, and they can start creating the project, the repository, their own pointer. We also put a pointer initially on that, that's pointing to the developer part, so they just can start to deploy like on the dedicated cluster, but to show you what it's worth. So now you have a vCluster, same lines. We don't change the line. It's going to be same lines. We just saying from disabled to enabled, and getting Argo CD running in the virtual cluster. Of course, if you are doing something like this, now you need to be aware of vCluster. You can see the secrets in the most cases if you don't sync them. You can sync from the vCluster to the host cluster a lot of part, and from the host cluster to the vCluster a lot of part. So you can see a lot of things just existing inside the virtual cluster, running on top of the host cluster, not inside, on top. It takes me, I don't know, 3 months to understand it's not running inside, it's running on top from the wording. So now we have created for the team not just value to getting Kubernetes cluster for the newbies starting with all the journey, but also they said we don't want a dedicated cluster, it costs us too much, we want a ephemeral cluster because and also we wanted now to deploy or to using the GitOps approach. I see we don't have much time, and I want to show you all the demos. Hopefully no questions still there, and if you have an urgent question, just drop in. I'm really bad at looking at the chat, so if someone can please say this question is urgent and we need to read it, because I don't know, I'm not a native speaker, and so it's very difficult for me to go in the flow looking at the chat. So I'm not maybe the best host, but
no questions so far, so you can go ahead.
No, thank you very much. Very kind of you. And so we have already demonstrated. We say to enable it, and we now using K9S. Already I show you. You should disable the admin, like I said. It's limitation or better DEX with your own OIDC provider with kubelogin, so you can then directly integrate it or log into Argo CD. I also show you at the end. I have DEX integration for the cockpit part, but let's jump to the next one. I think it's going to be maybe interest for you because vCluster is also made for multi-tenancy. You can establish multi-tenancy with dedicated node pools. And in the next step, we are doing the following part. It's the same. We just switch now the config YAML. We are just going to the config YAML and say, let me see if I'm not lying. It's the same. The only thing will be changed here now. We are going to deploy the dedicated node pool, and then we are going deploying the vCluster and Argo CD and all the stuff. We taint it, so you need to establish some toleration for everything or for every part you deploy into the vCluster, not just only the vCluster, and it's also covered by this demo. Same lines. So now let's say we are setting this to true. And now let's say again, Ego is just a wrapper to starting a Docker container. I also don't mention it. It's described in the README. You can also using YTT or another solution. It's just starting your Docker container with all the environments you need. For example, mounting the working directory, mounting the environment, because the config YAML ranked on my local computer and not, and I'm mounting it in the container. And then I'm also, everything I produce, I'm writing it in this working directory so I can use it and I don't need to copy it. So Ego is just a way to save you some arguments. It's just a 8-9-year-old bash wrapper about Docker. So if you're looking at it, but now let's say config template again all, and we can see it's created for us not just only this part, it's also created for us a Terraform part because now we need a new node pool, and it's created for us a new node pool dedicated with some tains. This is now stacked specific, but I think it's running another managed solution in a similar way. So you have a label and you have a taint because we don't want just to taint it. We want also to creating a node selector for our workload if the developer enable it. But first, of course, the node pool doesn't exist. So we need to create the node pool. I'm running Terraform plan. I'm also describe it. Come on, my internet looks like a little bit too slow. And then we have a lot of warnings because I'm using a lot of beta features, but the part we are looking at just create a node pool for us. So Terraform, I'm using now Terraform apply, -- auto approve. A lot of people ask me every time about my alias, and I forgot every time to share it. So I think this time it's gonna be the same. I will forget to share it, but I don't using a lot of aliases. It's just some Terraform and some Helm parts. But if you're interested in it, I try this time to keep it in mind and try to share it in the same repository. Now we created the node pool. I think maybe, I don't know, it's not a boring part, but you can see here, the node pool is gonna be created, project X. And so I created 2 terminals, so I can also, until we are still waiting until the node pool is gonna be ready, let's also commit the vCluster now, the same project, but now with an isolated pool, for example, get at just everything. Hopefully I don't push some credentials. If I push some credential, I'm gonna squash it. So, but I hope not. It's not looks like, but you never know. Because of that, for the purpose of live demo, it's private, and I make it public later. Demo 3. So let's push it again. Nothing new. Just saying KNS starting, and then we say Argo CD, please refresh again because we updated something. I mean, it's app of apps pattern, but I like to refresh everything. So now you can see vCluster starting to roll out. I don't know if the nodes are ready, but it's gonna realize, okay, get it. It's gonna be it's now the Argo secret because they also, let me show you what is also happening. It's also created the toleration for us because we say it's a label, and based on the label in the config YAML, it's created the node selector, it's created the toleration for us, and it's also updated the app we are already using it with adding the toleration and node selector part. So for every component, because in some cases you can have global flags for toleration and node selector. For some Helm charts you don't have. And I don't know, maybe if the new version of vCluster support global flag, Argo CD supports, but in case it's not supports, I'm created for every service templating automatically. So, but we need also to take a look at the nodes. If they are ready, no, we don't have a new node pool. In the most cases, it takes about 2 or 3 minutes. But it's Friday. I don't know if they're making some new releases. The node push should be ready, maybe, maybe not. No, it's still creating, modifying. The F checks are not ready yet. But in the meantime, we are waiting. I mean, of course, now vCluster, the new parts are not going to be deployed because we don't have the node pool running yet. Hopefully, it will be there in few seconds. Or maybe not. But if you have questions, it's now a good point to discuss the question. I don't know if you're gonna be kicked out after 90 minutes. Hopefully not. Hopefully the recording just break out and maybe we can still in. And if you have some times, we can going then also through questions arising. But for this part, let's wait if the node pool are going up. The next, until we're waiting, I can jump to the next part. It's going to be, for example, you have a new team coming in and saying, developer, now we need a new cluster. and as a service with an isolated node pool without GitOps, you just go into the config YAML, disable Argo CD, enable isolated, and you will be done. Just another use case, for example, if the developer say we just wanted Kubernetes, but with dedicated node pools, you can also do it with the same config YAML. Like I say, it looks like magic, but it's not. I don't change the line. So it's very easy to follow up, I think, and you don't need a real onboarding for the developer. I think the developer, you can do a lot of more. We also allow you to modify the node pools and all the other stuff. You can see now here, we are going to the project X, the new node pool is there. And now they starting to deploy everything on the new node pool. And yeah, I just running it so you can see it, and I'm explaining because I don't think it's necessary to watch how it's gonna be rotated. I mean, I love it because it's GitOps and Kubernetes, but no need. So you can also doing this way. And let's going to another example for a new team comes in. No, come on. Hopefully I don't forgot it. Oh no, I forgot to make a screenshot. Oh no. I just forgot it to add a new screenshot. I'm using the same. Yeah. My bad. I just using the same screenshot. In the new one, you can imagine. I mean, you have a great fantasy, I guess. Good fantasy. So it's gonna be a new team comes in and say, I wanted to extend. I also have a new project team called Project X or Project Y. And then it's going to create also, for example, a new node pool for you and how it's going to be working. It's already the script. I already have described it in this part. So we just, for example, let me just copy it to show you how it would work, how you can extend it. And we just say using the same team. I don't know if we want, let's say, no, we don't want an isolated one because we're running out of time. And no Argo CD, we can say, yeah, go for it. It's not going to work because we need to sync the secrets to the external secrets so Argo can fetch it. And so we disable it just to show you that you can also. So we are going ego again, config template, minus all. And you can see it's going to create you another. We are using app of apps pattern, another app called project vCluster project Y. And let me fast try to git commit. I don't know what's happening. After the time, we are running off the time. So I try to share as much as possible. If not, we can go through everything. I have time. I blocked the whole afternoon. So don't. So we are going, I don't know, it's going to be demo 4, I guess. Git push it doesn't matter on the commit message. And then if we are doing, for example, again, refresh apps. Come on. As I say, I want to share as much as possible. So sorry for that. And then if you are, for example, now looking at the cluster, a new team coming in, and you can see vCluster Y exists. Just another few 5 lines. I don't count it, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and you onboard a new team. Because they don't say dedicated pools, they created it should be running on the shared pool. So yeah, this is how you can onboard very easy and create value by don't throwing away on top. I mean, a new IDP, fancy portal UI, all the scaffolding stuff, all the scary stuff. You just need to listen to the developer, see where the pain is and solve it. And then going to the next because you reduce the cognitive workload from the developer. And then you can focus maybe on providing IDP or another one and you get trust. If the developer trusts you, so if you say, I have a new solution, I'm not aware of if it's gonna working well, but let's try it. The developers say, yes, because we have the time. You reduce the cognitive workload. Now they have the time and also the mental healthness or the mental power or the mental capacity to going through with your new solution. Sometimes the developer want, but sometimes the cognitive workload is so high they don't have the mental capacity to going with you on new topics. Not because they, a lot of people say, yeah, developers are bad. They are not bad. They are sometimes just underwater and try to swim. And if you are looking at the numbers, developer just code, senior developers 1 hour a day. on focus time. Paper is published, maybe 2 hour a day, and this is the quality time they get for coding. So yeah, look, we are not kicked out. Hopefully it's still recording. So I don't know what's happening, but let's go with the flow. So if you have some question, the next demo will be, because a lot of people just showing you onboard, and I also like to show offboard, how you offboard the people. For example, our team is done with testing and you want to save cost, because I was speaking about cost, multi-tenancy, all the stuff. The easy part is you just remove it, for example, and you say again, Igor, come on, config template, minus all, and then it's gonna remove also the application. If I don't make a mistake, you can see it's away. It's remove it, and now we can say, for example, git add apps, because we want to delete the applications, and everything you put with GitOps, if you do it right, everything coming through GitOps in, you can also remove through GitOps. And let's say at the moment git apps add, git commit minus offboard, not on, offboard project Y, git push, and see. Like I say, I don't test the demos, so I don't have the time, but I hope it works. Let's see what's happening now behind the scenes. We can see now. Now it's terminating. It's gonna deleting and clean up the environment. So onboard, offboard, few lines, create grid value by using tools you are aware of it. So if you have some question, just drop it. If not, hopefully you're getting some value now. Do we have some question in the chat? Because I don't know where the chat is, to be honest. You can unmute yourself. I don't bite. We have, now I can see the bar. I'm not familiar very well with Zoom enterprises and also other solutions, because the most time we have our own solution and we invite and making workshops in our own environment, so multiple people can share the screen. So I totally agree. Have dropped. Thank you. Fantastic session. Need to drop. Yeah, the most people just planned 90 minutes. But it's, I mean, you can see Argo CD is still running here because we request more resources. For our other demo, we request more resources and we need to wait. I think that the node, that our second node pool, it's gonna be spin up. Something like this should be happening right now. vCluster, TLS handshake, stack it, rhyme out. Yeah, we're getting some unknown destination, which resources, deleting some repository, vCluster. Like I say, I don't test all the demos, but I think it's not should be happening. It should be something like timeouts, because this is the demo where we deploy the GitOps part. So yeah, I lost the flow because I'm trying to doing multiple times at once. It's never a good sign. But again, if you have it's still waiting for updating now. It looks like I have a mistake in the demo from the GitOps part or something like this. It's not deploying the Argo CD server on the dedicated node pool. Maybe I have some indentation error on this part, but I'm gonna fix it and provide it. Key toleration, but it's look right for me. I'm gonna fix it and provide you, but I hope you get the idea and then you can test it and provide me some feedback. The next step will be, of course, remove me as a platform engineer and getting a GitHub action for that, so you can create your own workflow. For example, the developer modifies the config YAML, create a pull request, and then you can decide auto approve or not auto approve based on creating node pull. But I think you are gonna figure it out how you can use it if you want to use it, and also try to use stacks with OIDC, or if you manage if your cloud provider allows you, so you can also mapping directly the group and making the role binding. Yeah. And for us, a lot of people also ask me if it's gonna be, for example, if it's gonna be cost you a much of time because if you have another solution to provide and maintain this solution, I can say no, because we integrated, our setup was like this. So we have already a cockpit cluster or host cluster with our vCluster, and we have dedicated cluster, and we just working with the dedicated cluster, like, or with the Sunrise cluster, we call it at the moment. If we build it, we have threatened the cluster like the other one. So, for example, if you want to deploy tools or everything else on it, it's for us from the maintenance part. It was the same. We try to keep it low and to integrate it in our approach. And at the moment, I don't know, you have managed 30 or 40 cluster, dedicated cluster, and this setup. I don't know if it still survived, to be honest, because I'm not on the project anymore. Maybe they switched away from it of reasons. But yeah, now I'm finished with speaking and try to.